Okay, we are coming up on 6 o'clock. It is 6 o'clock. We have 3 of us.
Kevin just texted me. He was looking for the link. I sent it to him, and it sounds like he got it.
Okay,
So
all
he
right.
should
Well,
be,
then let's give it 2 minutes for
Okay.
for Kevin to come, and we'll have a.
I'm here.
Hi, Kevin.
Okay.
Are you
Hi.
joining us? Are you joining us with a video one of these times?
I'm on video for now.
There you are. Thank you.
So we have Chris Jeton and also Eric with Brightview is on a phone line.
Great. So let me call this meeting, the January meeting of our Homeowners Advisory Council to order. And the first item on our agenda is approval of the November minutes, which were sent to you last week. All those in favor?
I approve.
Yes.
Yeah, and I say yes. All right, then it's approved. So we can move to the public safety report. Lieutenant Jeton, you want to go ahead?
He's muted, I think, is he?
I can't see him, so I don't know.
Yes, he's muted.
Okay.
Can you unmute yourself, Chris?
Hi, I'm Sergeant Rosas. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Sergeant.
Is anyone hearing anything?
No,
He
because
kind of-
it's
he keeps-
muted.
He keeps
Whoever
muting
using
and
the guest police thing is muted.
You're muting and unmuting. Now you're unmuted. Now you're muted. It says iPhone, so maybe he's trying to do it from his phone.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're good.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize. For some reason, I'm unable to pull it up on my computer. My apologies about that. I'm Sergeant Rosas. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I'll be the one representing Cal State Channel Islands Police Department. Well, I would like to start off by saying thank you for having me. I am one of the newest employees to the department. I've been here about 5 weeks. I normally work Thursday, Friday, Saturday days, and hopefully you'll be seeing me around more often. So I have a couple law enforcement updates. As you may already know, we'll be beginning the semester soon. So therefore, we should see an increase of overall activity on campus and probably at University Glen. However, the first 2 weeks of the semester, they're going to be virtual. So we might have a fluctuation in activity, more pedestrian activity as well as vehicle activity around campus. Also, some suspicious activity has been reported recently. So I just want to take an opportunity to remind everybody to make sure you secure your valuables by locking your doors at your homes, your vehicles. Remember not to leave things that are visible that could be potentially easily seen from outside of your residence or outside of your vehicle. Thefts many times are crimes of opportunity, and if we take away or limit those opportunities, we become and prevent us from being easy targets. Please continue to contact us just in case you notice any suspicious activity or any things that appear to be out of place. We want to make sure that we have a good communication with our U Glen residents in order to keep our campus and community safe. That's pretty much everything that I have on my end to report. Just want to see if there's any questions.
I have a question. I don't know if you guys can see me. Can you elaborate on the suspicious activity and how, and you talked about crimes of opportunity. Has there been actual theft going on?
It's back on, Sergeant, you're back on mute, it looks like. There you go.
Okay. So we've had several calls in the last couple of weeks where we've had some subjects walking around, potentially teenagers, maybe from possibly related to Casa Pacifica house that's for Lewis. Also, we received another report that was a non-criminal investigation where a subject was seen walking around outside of a residence, possibly checking out some packages. However, there was no theft that was completed. So we refer to those as suspicious activities.
Thank you.
No problem.
I don't have any questions, so.
If no one else has any questions, then why don't we proceed to our Brightview landscape report? Eric, I think you're online.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Yes, thank you, Sergeant. Yes, my apologies for not saying thank you.
Thank you for having me, and I apologize, technical difficulties on my end. Thank
Well,
you.
we look forward to meeting you in person in the neighborhood.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Brightview, Eric, are you online?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, how's everybody doing today?
I think we're fine. We're not happy to be all back online again, but here we are. So happy to have you with us.
Yeah, it's better to be safe, you know, because of this COVID thing. It's been crazy. But I'm happy that I'm on here, and I think I have Scott Godfrey. He's also on. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Eric Lopez. I am the account manager for the University Gun Landscape. And I just wanted to quickly go over a couple things. First subject that I wanted to talk about was the irrigation checks. So we are continuing to check the irrigation around the property. We have been going through and checking out the irrigation clocks, test running stations, and making sure that we check every station, looking for any breaks, looking for any overspray. We managed to get to at least 3 clocks. It does take a good chunk of time to get through a clock, and we are continuing to push on that. Every clock that we go, we check and we make a log of what we find, and we place this in a monthly report. So we are, like I said, we're pushing hard on that, trying to get through every clock as fast as possible, but as secure as possible. And we are still in the rainy season, so we will be looking out for any rains to come, making any necessary adjustments to avoid watering when it rains, to avoid any damage to the turf, to avoid any damage to the planters. Clocks right now have currently been turned back on, as we do not anticipate any rain in the forecast. Looks like sunny days for next week. Cross your fingers. The second subject that I wanted to bring up is DG path repairs. That's decomposed granite. So there has been some decomposed granite damage on the north side and the south side of Channel Islands. This was because of the previous rains that we've had in the last month or so. I believe we had over about 2 to 3 inches of rain that came down. So we do need the rain, but at the same time, it's very critical that we make sure that when the rains do come, we are ready and prepared for this. The rains did cause a good amount of damage drenching the DG walk paths. And we are currently working with Jake on repairing these DG paths. We have already placed stakes and yellow tape in these areas to help block off the areas. We plan to put more stakes and yellow tape by early next week. And we are also working on a plan to prevent the water from flowing down of the hillside to the DG to prevent this from recurring again.
So
I have a
can you
question.
can you
Go ahead.
describe that plan a little bit? Are you planning to sandbag or something to that effect? What are you thinking about?
Yes, so we do believe that by putting some sandbags there, they'll help redirect the water that comes from the hillsides so that it doesn't go to where the DG is, and kind of guiding the water away from that so we don't have the same issue where the DG just causes, the water just causes ruts in the DG.
Yeah, I have two questions. One is sandbags, starting with the statement, sandbags are unattractive for the most part. And while they're a temporary solution, have we looked into a more permanent solution like the stone walls we have around the DG path in various areas, which also make a nice place to sit, by the way. Can we do something like that, A? And B, what is the time frame for repair?
So the stones, I think that'd be a good idea. Like I said, we're still trying to come up with what would be the best solution for this. We do know that sandbags do work.
You're welcome. You did good.
Hello?
Hello, what was that?
It's all right. We just have someone on who's not muted at this point.
Oh.
Just go ahead.
But as far as getting the repairs done, we should get that done within the next week or so.
What is the repair process?
So we want to come in and make sure that we fill in those gaps, those ruts that occurred because of the rain, and making sure that it's well and compacted so that it doesn't, so it hardens and it's safe to walk on.
Thank you.
The idea is that we're looking to get it corrected in the next week or so. And I've gotten the proposals and I've signed the proposals. And so we'll move forward with that as expeditiously as possible. As far
Yes,
as the
Jake.
as far as the long-term solution, as far as water coming down the mountains, I've been here 5 years and this is the most water I've seen in this area. Doesn't mean it won't happen again, but the sandbags are the temporary solution. And we can talk about and investigate what the best solution would be as far as diverting the water, and whether there's some other way to allow the water to pool without gaining a lot of velocity going down the hill, because that's what really creates the ruts.
It might be worthwhile to kind of map where the water is coming down. If there's a set point every time it rains, that's a problem so we can address just certain points along the way, but just.
Yeah, your point's well taken. Yeah.
You said, Jake, you said you signed the proposals. How much are the repairs?
The repairs, the total repairs right now are $8,800. And we have $10,000 in the budget for DG repair this year.
Wow, that's more than I would have expected.
And that's $8,800 to what? Put more DG stuff down and rebuild the.
That's to establish the base, to rototill it as necessary, to make it so that it all compacts together, and then compacting it.
How much, whatever, how many square feet of DG path is that $8,800 repairing?
Hang on a second.
I mean, we have to be careful, right, when we repair those ruts, that we're not weakening the DG alongside of it. It has to be repaired kind of as a whole, doesn't it? In those areas. I don't know. What do I know? I know nothing about DG. I mean,
It's a little over 7,000 square feet.
7,000 square feet? Serious?
Because what we're looking at is that I can give you the more specifics. I mean, I've got the proposal. It is for the entire area along basically from Rincon Drive up to the park. And if you look at it, you can see that there are about three locations that it came down and washed it out. One right by the from the swimming pool, and then there's a second one. And then the largest one is really from Elephant Seal all the way to the park.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen where it's washed into the street. I'm just surprised it's that much.
Yeah, take a look at it. It's
Yeah.
personally, I've not seen it this way before. And obviously we've had a lot of rain that we haven't had in the past.
Well, and I've also had complaints from neighbors who walk dogs and run along the path that it really is dangerous at this point.
And that's why we put up caution tape today.
Thank you for doing that.
It doesn't solve it at night. I'm also talking to Brightview about whether we get some kind of sawhorse kind of things that have lights on them. You know, so it's like that at night it's a caution.
I'd be surprised that the police station doesn't have that.
I talked to Brightview. Brightview doesn't have it, that they've got access to them. And so I'm working at that.
Jake, just to add in there, sorry, it's Scott. It's also not just in that area, but we also have was also approved to go from Camarillo Street to at the entrance. So all along there, it's not quite as significant, but the erosion we had looked at. So that is also included as part of that too.
You mean coming up the hill into the neighborhood?
Yeah. Correct.
Isn't that where the water tank overflowed?
No. Well, that's where it's overflowed, but that was repaired. The area on from the northmost roundabout towards Camarillo on Channel Islands is that's where we would expect it to happen. And it did again, but it is much less along the Channel Islands up by the roundabout than along Channel Islands, the 100 to 400 block of Channel Islands, significantly different.
Could I suggest, if we want to have further conversation on this, that we refer this to the landscape committee to maybe take a second look, but I do believe we need to move quickly.
Okay.
We have a special guest that I'd like to be able to move on to if everyone's in agreement.
Okay. Fine.
So, anything else from Brightview before we move to the next item?
I actually do, but why don't we move on? I've shared some emails with Jake and Brightview about the irrigation and the timing, seasonal adjustments, but I heard something new a few minutes ago. So I wanted to follow up on. I'll do it later outside the meeting.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. So I'd like to move now to introduce our new supervisor for Ventura County. We've been redistricted, and if we can, do we have a way to highlight a speaker, folks?
I think on your camera or on your machine, you just say speaker. You just go and click speaker.
So let me introduce Supervisor Carmen Ramirez from the 5th District, our new legislative home, local government legislative home here in Ventura County.
Hi, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me okay. As you know, many of us are working remotely, and I'm working remotely due to the COVID surge. So I'm in my home, in my comfy living room, which is really great, especially sour. Anyway, yes, we've been redistricted. I can't remember now who your previous supervisor was. Was it Supervisor Long?
No,
or-
it was Supervisor Parks.
Linda Parks.
Okay, well, you may know that we have 5 supervisors, and every 10 years, every county only has 5 supervisors in California, which is different from our cities. Sometimes cities have 7 or 5 or some other number of council members, but every county in California, 58 counties, has 5 supervisors. And every county is divided up into districts, and it has to be equal population as possible. And so with the census that came out, the figures that came out in the fall, the county was obligated to balance the districts again. And generally speaking, I'm very pleased with the results, because it's great to have Cal State Channel Islands and your homes in my district, but also it just made a lot more sense, because now Oxnard, city of Oxnard, is next to Port Hueneme, and Port Hueneme used to be governed or represented by the supervisor, who generally is from Camarillo and Santa Paula. So I think it made more sense, but nobody got everything they wanted. But I'm pretty pleased, because I really do like my district. I live in Oxnard. I've lived here for many years, but represented the city of Oxnard on council for 10 years. So I'm pretty familiar with city government, and I've had a year to get more informed about county government. Although during my time on city council, I was very involved in a number of county organizations and regional organizations. And I'd like to just tell you a little bit about them, but my main purpose in being here is to introduce myself, introduce my staff. Mr. Angel Garcia is on the call, and I don't know if you can see him. He is my executive assistant, and there he is. I was hoping that Robert O'Reilly, who is my chief of staff, could be here, but he's a little bit under the weather. So I told him to please take care of himself, get well, so I can dump a lot of work on him tomorrow. Okay. It's a
Well, we appreciated his work in facilitating this for us.
Great. So I'll answer your questions, and I don't know how much time you want to give me. You have a lot of stuff on your plate here, but generally speaking, what you're dealing with at the Homeowners Association, I've been in a Homeowners Association before, has really very little to do with county government, but you may have other issues that come forward that you individually or even possibly as a group want to raise at the county level. And I will tell you about some of my duties as the county supervisor. This year, I rotated into being the chair of the Ventura County Board. I'm very pleased about it. It's a rotation. It isn't like merit-based or anything, so I won't get too excited about it, but I do have to run the meetings and take care of any issues that need the attention of the chair. And I've only been there a year, but as I say, I'm pretty familiar with county duties or jurisdiction, which is very different from our cities. So just real quickly, I want to tell you what county government is responsible for. First and foremost, public health. And during this COVID situation, the county's public health is responsible for making sure that people have access to care, to vaccines, to testing. It hasn't been always smooth because we've had some bumps in the road. We unfortunately have had a lot of losses due to COVID. I lost my brother to COVID last year. So my heart goes out to anybody who suffered any kind of loss because it's very, very personal. You know, you just can't get over it right away, and I won't. So health is most important. It also includes behavioral health. We have a behavioral health department, which is for people in crisis, mental health crisis, but also it serves, generally speaking, people who do not have private insurance, who cannot afford private mental health care. And we are working on improving that, making it a little bit more expansive. And I've supported all of those measures because many people do. I'm sorry? Okay.
It's just somebody with their mic off.
Okay, I just keep going. County also has the Ventura County Sheriff's, which is responsible for safety, public safety, and all sorts of things. I would recommend you get on the sheriff's news release list so you can know what the sheriff's department is up to, catching people who burglarize, were involved in drugs or violent crimes, picking up people who have guns who are not allowed to have guns, felons and other folks, and they maintain the jails. The other thing that is about public safety is our fire department, which some of you may have had experience with recent fires in the fire department. That's their job, try to put them out, and also emergency services for people who need attention during emergencies, whether it's auto accident in unincorporated county or home heart attack, strokes, accidents, trauma. So it is a lot. It is a lot. The other thing that the county is responsible is keeping our watersheds clean and functioning and not polluting the ocean. I'm on a committee that's called Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency, and that is a county entity that looks out for allocating the water that's in our ground, which is in the ground. And water is a whole different topic, and I encourage you all to get very informed about it. We're in a drought, despite the rain that we've had, and it's causing some troubles for people, as I just heard. We don't have enough water. Our groundwater is being perhaps overpumped. It's going to have an impact on all of us and agriculture and business and residents, and potentially is going to cost more. I don't know where you get your water from, but I would say it's important to know who supplies your water, what the water quality is, and whether or not you might have increases coming. The county also has an agriculture commissioner looking out for the pests that could impact our agriculture, like the citrus pest that is very dangerous to our citrus industry here. And all of the farmers are growing every kind of citrus have to be on the lookout for this pest, because once it gets in your tree, the tree has to be destroyed. And it's very, very concerning for our community. County also coordinates homeless services. And you probably are familiar that this is a growing problem in our county, in the next county to the south, the next county to the north, and really all over California. And we're working hard to address the need, but the reality is we don't have enough housing or services for people who are unhoused. I'm working very closely with Supervisor Levere, who represents District 1, which is Ventura City, parts of Oxnard, all the way to Ojai. And it's a very complex problem. We're trying to address it as most efficiently and humanely as we can. We did a big task force recently to get the 100 people who are living in the Santa Clara River out of the riverbed before the rains came. And I want to thank my staff and Supervisor Levere's staff and all of the county staff that helped us avoid some tragedies. So we're trying to be alert to the situation. You may remember this weekend we had a tsunami warning, and it did impact Channel Islands Harbor minimally, but it did have a greater impact at Ventura Harbor. So I could go on and on about all of these committees I'm on. I'm on the Cal State Site Authority, which is quite a bit different from what you're doing here today, which is you're talking about your homes. This is talking about what's going to be allowed at the campus in terms of more buildings, and I'm pleased to be on that.
Actually, we also fall under the site authority's governance.
Right, and I used to be an alternate, and I would go to those meetings in person before the pandemic. So I remember hearing from homeowners and addressing the site authority about issues that came forward, and a lot of it did seem to involve landscaping, as I recall. So
Well,
that's the big issue.
a broad range of issues. We'll look forward to having a meeting with you separately and give you some view of kind of the spectrum of issues that involve the county and us.
That would be good. And, you know, I've just put in the chat how to reach me. And Robert O'Reilly is my chief of staff. Angel Garcia, who's on the line here, is executive assistant. And there's the number for us. And if you send me an email, if I can handle it, I will. But more than likely, I will ask one of my staffers to get back to you and address the issues. So I could go on and on about all the committees I'm on, all the duties I have, but would like to hear from you. If you have any questions, and we can always meet again if you like.
Thank you.
So
Can I ask two quick questions, Sandy, of the
Sure.
supervisor? Supervisor Ramirez, thank you for coming.
Of course.
Two questions. One is you'd mentioned the site authority board. So are you remaining as an alternate, or are you now a primary member? And if so, who did you replace, if you would know?
I asked Supervisor Long if she wouldn't mind if I became the regular member. And I believe that Supervisor Huber remains the alternate. Again, Supervisor Parks remains a regular member.
Okay, so you're now a regular member replacing
Replacing Supervisor Long.
Supervisor Long. Okay.
Yeah, she
Great.
no longer has you in her district.
And you implied in your message here a minute ago that if there are times where our community interfaces with the community, with the county, certain issues. Do you want us to contact you directly if we have an issue? Or do you
Sure.
want us? Okay.
What I try to do is help people get to the right department or entity that can help you answer your questions. If you have a problem, I try to figure out how it can be resolved. Sometimes it can be resolved. Sometimes it's not within the jurisdiction of the county.
Sure. But so if we're not sure, we can just go to you directly and then you'll direct us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
We appreciate that, and we would like to have the opportunity to brief you. And what I'll do is send Mr. O'Reilly a follow-up email and potentially arrange a meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
But we're excited to be in a more contiguous relationship with our more direct neighbors. So I think in general, at least from my point of view, the neighborhood is much better served by being, as I describe it, in our own neighborhood on this side of the mountain.
Thank you for saying that. And I wanted to mention that for many years, I was on the President's Advisory Council, even when Cal State Channel Islands was not even formed yet. I was on when it was the Northridge Extension way back when, 20 years ago or more.
Oh, yes.
I transitioned over to the President's Advisory for Cal State Channel Islands, and I met the first cohort of professors. I still know there's about 3 of them left. I try to stay in a lot of contact with the university. I think it's a wonderful asset for our county. And I think where you live is very beautiful. I have a friend who lives over there and have in the past gone over to visit. So I think it's a beautiful place. I hope you enjoy it.
We do enjoy the beauty. They're like in every neighborhood. There are issues that are unique to to the fact that we have a beautiful neighborhood that lives on state land.
Right.
And so it's the interplay of the governmental agencies. We just begin to open a conversation and see what's possible and what's not possible, given the unique nature of how we're constructed.
Right.
So we look forward to having the conversation with you.
And I'll just go back and say a little bit more about my experience with the campus, because just so you know, I've been around quite a long time. I am an attorney. I was a legal aid attorney for many years. I still am. I still have my license to practice, just paid my dues, pretty stiff. But when I was a legal aid attorney, I did actually have clients who were patients of the hospital and visited them as they were hospitalized there. So it's been a long, long history. A beautiful place always, but I think it's much more beautiful now.
Well, I think you'll help me fill in many gaps. I've written a history of the neighborhood and its relationship to the campus, and you're going to help me fill in some of my holes. I look forward to the conversation.
And if you ever went over to the library, it used to be called the President's Garden. My name is on the wall as one of the founding members. It was quite a while ago, but I'm very proud of that.
Well, that's really exciting. We're awfully glad that this redistricting lets us come home to you.
Thank you. I'm happy about it.
As I
Thank you.
hope the whole neighborhood, as they get to know you, will be.
One day we'll be able to meet in person. Be great.
One day, and one day we'll be 4,000 strong out here, and that's not a small neighborhood.
It's a lot. Can I just ask that Angel say a word or two, and then we will
Sure, of
get back to
course.
business?
Please.
Angel?
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Angel Garcia. I'm Executive Assistant to Supervisor Ramirez. I've included my email and our office contact information in the chat. I'm already having some conversations with some of your members in the chat. I wanted to say that before I worked for the supervisor, I worked for State Senator Hannibal Jackson. So I'm very familiar with state issues as well as having understanding of federal issues. So if there is a resource or entity that you're trying to get into contact with and you're not sure who to turn to, you are more than welcome to contact the supervisor's office, and I would be happy to assist. I am very familiar with your community. I'm actually an alumni of CSUCI. I graduated in 2019. So I'm very familiar with your community. It is beautiful. The campus is beautiful. And I look forward to assisting you and communicating with you. And feel free to contact me if you have any questions or if I can be of any assistance. And I also speak Spanish too, if you have any Spanish-speaking residents that need assistance.
We appreciate that very much. And I have a first question that I'll direct to you by email. So thank you very much for the offer and the open welcome. We really appreciate your willingness to spend the time and upset your schedules to do this for us tonight.
So unless there are more questions, thank you, Angel. Unless there are more questions, we'll let you get back to your normal business, but you know how to get in touch with us.
Thank you so very much. We do.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a great evening.
You
Thank
too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Angel.
much. We're going to move on to committee reports now, and I have a request from Gabrielle, who I'm afraid may be suffering from Omicron, to go first with the garden committee report.
So hi, everyone. Before this last couple of weeks, I was really kind of gaining steam on gathering information for the expansion. It has become very clear that the plan, the overwhelming favorite plan that has been submitted for the expansion, which I have it on something else, but I just can't even see it. It's sort of like that. It's a walk-in cage that is the same size as the garden we have now, and it's one cage where each plot is open. It is prohibitive in cost. There's just, I even had a math major double check my math to make sure, because it's so outrageous. But the cost is in the $30,000 to $40,000 range. So as far as, I mean, I don't know, it just seems like an awful lot of money. There have been some other really thoughtful plans that have come across my desk. They would need further discussion, and they are kind of a seismic shift from what we have now. I do believe that the current garden should stay where it is. I also believe we have enough money, as somebody has pointed out, so I will raise this. It has been pointed out that we have enough money to extend the existing garden, the fence, the basic chain link fence, by 25 feet. If you, from the entrance gate now, we could add 6 more plots. We could kill the turf, add 6 more plots, and to have everybody build their own plot. And that would give us 6 additional plots. And we could do that for right around the $5,000 we already have budgeted. We could tap into the existing irrigation is right there without any major work because it was upgraded this last year by Chris. So it's already there. We would just shoot it down to those 6 plots. And really the only expense would be the hardware cloth that goes on the ground, but it's such a small space, it wouldn't be that much. And the fencing would cost between $2,000 and $3,000. That is retail. That is without knowing somebody. Now, we did get an offer from Brightview to help us. And originally the offer, I'm yet to see a plan. I requested it 2 or 3 times, but it's kind of morphed from getting a plan to help us from Brightview to us paying Brightview to do it. And which kind of goes against, you know, again, it just ends up, it should be another $30,000 project. So I would really like to explore some other options that have come across the committee's desk. And at the same time, if people would like to see 6 new plots go in, we could do that pretty darn quick.
Do we have any sense of what it costs, how much water it takes to do 1 plot?
No, but I can actually, that's a good question, Sandy. I think it depends on if you're an active and I don't want to say active grower because everyone needs to be active, but certainly some people plant in styles that require less water. This kind of cooperative planting type thing where the soil is nourished by the other plants and water is shared and things of that nature. There's also, you know, we use a little irrigation system. It doesn't require a lot of water, but it does require some. So I think Carolyn and Chris would be good people to reach out to get that information. None of the beds are deep. They're all short beds with the exception of one that is an ADA compliant bed. So.
Well,
I could,
typically when you have less deep soil, when you're just basically sitting on top of a less, maybe a pervious, but not agriculturally rich soil, it takes more water to keep a garden going than it doesn't. I guess I'd like to if the garden committee is going to meet again anytime soon, I'd like to come with some questions about, my concern is as we live in continual drought, we need to do our future garden expansion in a way that deals with the lack of water that's going to be our reality. And therefore we have to use gardening methods that use less water. And there are many gardening choices that use less water, and we need to at least begin to have that in the mix as we move forward with garden thoughts.
Well, I would object to what you just said, Sandy. The gardening methods that we use are very efficient. We have emitters where we can regulate the amount of water that is emitted from each one depending upon the season and the time of year. We regulate the time, which is maybe 10 minutes a day, every other day, watering. I can calculate the amount of water, but the way it is now with the emitters and the irrigation system is much more efficient than what it was before. And it has been very efficient for a long period of time, except there's a few people, there used to be a few people that would, use the hose. The people that use the hose are less efficient, but they have the opportunity to get hooked onto the irrigation system. I could provide a mathematical calculation of the gallons used based on the time that it's watering in the summer and the winter, but it's a very efficient system, and the raised beds are very efficient. They hold the water in, they retain it, and we use soil that retains water. So I disagree with what your statement that you made.
No, my statement, Carolyn, is that we need to be aware of using every efficiency that we can. And I'm aware that most of the gardeners, not all, but most of the gardeners use the drip irrigation system, which for its time was the most efficient choice possible. There are now potentially some more efficient choices out there, and I just think we ought to look at the more efficient choices as you go forward to expansion. And we ought to encourage that everyone who is gardening attach to your drip irrigation system, at least if you're in the traditional beds that the gardens have. So I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just trying to make sure that our expansion moves in as water-wise a direction as is possible.
Well, I think the gardeners have always been trying to be water wise, but if you have some good ideas, email them to me. I'd like to look at them. I'd like to know what they are.
Well, you're going to see one of them later tonight.
Great.
Okay, so,
And
you know, there's a lot of things to explore, like rainwater capturing, things like that. But those are all very costly. Eventually they're cost efficient, but they cost money to get to. So
there is some grant money out there.
I have looked at, okay, so here's another thing. I'd like to make sure everyone knows that I have not only looked and been in contact with numerous community gardens all around the state, especially including the ones here in this county, and people drop names all the time. Well, this community garden does this and this. So I have been in touch with them all, and I'm well versed in how they run. So that's one thing. The other thing, I've already lost my train of thought. I can't remember what we were talking about.
I
Sorry,
think
you guys. I'm on medicine.
No, I'm sorry that you feel so poorly. No, I think I just would like us to continue the conversation.
Right.
I think that gets us to where we need to be.
Right. Oh, I know, grants. I'm sorry. Sorry, as long as I got it back. I have explored grants, and I did write a quick email about them at one point, because of our unique community. We're not really the type of grant recipient most of these places are looking for. We don't have food insecurity. There are other issues, you know, where kind of we're owned by the state, and there's other things out there that don't make us prime grant recipients. We also don't offer classes and do any kind of interactive things for children or for seniors. All of those are really great check boxes for getting a grant, and we don't check those boxes. So I have looked and will continue to look at grants, but if we want to seriously consider that, we would have to be more, do other things. We'd have to look at some other programs. That's about all I got, you guys. I'm sorry, I'm getting ready to start taking my clothes off. I'm burning up.
Hold on.
Okay.
Gabrielle, you'd mentioned the inexpensive route where we add 6 plots for 5K, so that comes out roughly $1,000 a plot. The more expensive option with 30 to 40K and closed cage, how many plots would we fit inside that?
That would be a mirror of the garden we have now with one additional plot. So it'd be 15. Yes, 15. And we could even make the plot smaller and potentially squeeze out 20.
All right, great. Also, I'll offer, if I don't know how the water connection to the garden plots works, but if there's a single point of entry, I'll donate a water meter if someone wants to get the exact amount of usage.
Carolyn, do we have water meters?
I would appreciate that, Tom. That would be very helpful.
It assumes it's a manual hookup and it's real easy. And because quite frankly, I think it's, in the scheme of things, we're going to find it's not material.
No, we have two hose bibs that connect to timed emitters that implement drip system across the garden. So,
Okay, so,
I mean,
so-
even just knowing, basically, we just need to calculate how long those systems run for, and we can tell you how many gallons are dispersed.
so they're just normal hose bibs, that's it?
That's it.
Okay, so we can install this ourselves in a few minutes.
If you want, I don't think it's significant like
Yeah.
the rest of the gardeners indicated.
Yeah,
Right now, I'm pretty much the only gardener, I believe, who is using the hose, and we're part emitter, part hose, because we're new
Okay.
to the garden and we've been sick and haven't been able to go.
well, if you want to get the exact amount of usage, again, I'll donate 2 meters.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else?
No, thank you for being patient with us.
Thank you, guys. Okay, more to come. Bye.
So Malia is out sick also. So I don't think we have a social committee report, so we're to landscape. Tom, Carolyn?
But wait a minute, Malia said something in an email about what's the difference?
I believe that issue's been solved. The issue she raised has been solved in subsequent conversations to the question being asked. So the question relates to content that is placed in the newsletter. And my understanding of the resolution, issues were raised about the UCAM office sending out births and deaths in the newsletter without knowing that the folks about whom those messages related agreed that they wanted that information made public. And with a simple request that only information about births and deaths be published at the request of a related community member. I think everybody was happy that we could publish them when somebody wanted us to, and we wouldn't publish them if the new parent or the bereaved party who lived in the neighborhood didn't want it published. It wouldn't be published. And so I don't think there's an issue remaining here. I think it's just a matter of making sure that we were honoring what the most involved people wanted to have happen.
Okay, I wasn't even aware that was happening. Okay. The landscape committee, when is the second phase going to start, Jake?
We are working on deciding on what the defensible space requirements are going to be and what the plant palette based on those requirements are. And so we're working on that. Do I have a firm date on that? I do not. I am in contact with the landscape people, with Brightview. Brightview has presented to us an updated plant palette based on what the less combustible plants, I guess you would say, that they list on their website. And so we're working with Brightview to suggest a revised plant palette. I do have a meeting tomorrow with Lori Nichols and the landscapers over at the university who are also dealing with this issue with Ventura County Fire Prevention. And so I'm looking for some guidance also, so that there's a kind of a unified approach to how would you say, meeting the requirements of this particular inspector, and how we approach that. Because there has been some conversation between with the 32 acres and this inspector. And so we're trying to kind of all row the same direction and have the same approach. And so that's what that meeting is about. And I would like to have at some point, Tom and Carolyn, us get together and kind of look at this proposed kind of some changes regarding within 0 to 5 feet, and keep you in the loop on that and look for suggestions also.
Jake,
Do we have anything in writing from, I guess, the governmental entity that's the enforcement agency?
We have the what is required by the state law, which is 0 to 5 feet. And that has guidelines as far as plant that they make comments that ground cover 3 inches or less, and that the plants, they give heights and distances and those kind of things. So we have that. And so that's, you look online, you look out on, and I believe I may have sent this to both of you, all of the links that describe all of that information. We've had that for several months.
Jake,
Okay, I have.
is your
Tom.
meeting tomorrow? It includes Larry, right?
It does not include Larry. This
Oh, it does not.
includes,
Okay.
no, it does not. And that's what's next.
Okay.
I'm trying to align so we know what's going on, so that, because my sense is that Lori will attend any meeting we have with Larry.
Okay. Yeah. Carolyn, do you have any other questions? Because I have a couple.
I would like to get a copy of whatever Jake's working with Brightview, because I feel like I'm out of the loop on that. I had found something that I sent to Brightview a couple months ago. I didn't receive a response, but I never found any specifics about plant material online for our county specifically.
Okay, we can show you where that is.
So, Jake, are we still planning to consolidate the refurbishment contract with the main maintenance contract into one bidding process? You'd mentioned that the other day.
That was your suggestion. Yes, we're considering it. I'm working on the we can investigate that. Right now, I'm working on putting the RFP together for the maintenance contract.
Right.
I'm working on the budget right now to align, so I know what our budget is including for the landscaping, so that the RFP lines up with that, so that we have apples to apples. If we would decide to go with a different contractor, that we're getting the same service that we're getting now.
Yeah.
Or improved, reasonable, particularly having to do with the irrigation.
Yeah, Carolyn, you and I had a brief email exchange about trying to competitively bid the refurbishment phase 2 and 3. So the thought is, if we consolidate the RFP to include both refurbishment projects, phase 2 and 3, and the maintenance contract, that's going to be bid to multiple competitors. So we'll get a competitive bid for the refurbishment along with the maintenance contract. And there's some other benefits to doing that, but it does make the RFP process a little more complex. And I assume, Jake, the RFP will include the plant palette being proposed for the refurbishment, if we do that?
If we would do that, yes, it would. So we have a lot of work to do to make that happen.
Okay.
Why would we be changing the plant palette for the second phases if we already knew this issue?
Carolyn, with the defensible space, there are specific requirements for this defensible space, which includes additional plants that we may not have completely in the original palette. So it would be enhancing it and basically saying which plants that are in the palette are allowable between 0 to 5 feet. And then it would also have an approach and deciding, how do we do we use rock in the ground cover? Do we just have dirt? What can we do? And so there are several other questions, because generally much of the ground cover that we have at the present time, in the long run, does not, it's alive now, yes, but in the long run does not meet the requirements of the requirement.
That's my recurring question. Brightview put down mulch that doesn't meet the requirements by my home. They haven't removed it. They did it. And nothing's being addressed. Plus,
no,
if we change the plant palette, then the neighborhood's not going to have a uniform look. And we've already changed the plant palette twice and we only did phase
No,
one.
Carolyn, let's have a meeting and look at what we're really changing and, so we don't speculate on how much change there is because there isn't a lot, but
Okay.
it's much more clearly where we can plant what. And we also need to have a clarification, what is 5 feet from the homes, whether that is in the case of any of us having to do with, is it the stucco walls? Is that considered the building or is it the actual structure itself? And that is something that we need a clarification from the individual or the county so that we're clear, because if it's the plants outside if the plants along your sidewalk, which are outside your courtyard, are acceptable because they're not within 5 feet of your structure, then that's a different plant palette than if it's up against the structure. And that's a clarification that really needs to be made before we can be clear on giving it to any landscape contractor to say, these are the plants you can put here and here, and here is the spacing. How can we move forward?
Well, yeah, I read it. I don't think the little block wall can be the structure. The home is the structure, but that's my interpretation of what I read.
We just need to have that, as you mentioned, in writing. We need to make sure we have that in writing so that if this particular inspector goes away, that we can say, look, this is what we agreed we would do.
Yes.
It's a
Okay.
detail. Yeah.
I assume the RFP will also include, if we can get specifics from the county, it will include plant removal of existing plants that need to be taken away. That will be part of the refurbishment.
That's what the whole refurbishing would be about.
Right. So it would include not only adding plants, but
Demoing.
quite possibly taking away. Okay.
Right. And to date, after the conversation that we had with this individual when we were doing the brush clearance this past year, his comments were about taking things away, as well as the number of trees that he would recommend that we remove. And so we're need to have clarification on many of these things, that were discussed. And I know that Tom and Sandy were in on those discussions when we were walking. And so, we don't want to present, how would you say? We want to present real actual information of what we need to do before we get everybody all bent out of shape after having a conversation with one individual.
Right, Jake, two quick questions. You said individual recommends we remove trees.
Yep.
Recommends or requires?
His comment was that he was saying that you need to have the clearance of all the roofs by 6 feet, which is in the requirement. And it also says that trees within 5 feet of structures shall not, there shouldn't be any.
And that's eventually. So at this point, in his opinion, eventually we will be out of compliance. So and my other quick question was, when we go to RFP, when you design RFP and you reach out for bid, do you publish it in a local newspaper?
Actually, I'm not sure we need to as a private property.
I mean, whether we need to or not, it still helps garner more bids.
Right. Okay, we can look into that. From my standpoint, right now I have 7 or 8 landscape contractors.
I just understand the last time we went out to bid, I think we had 3 bids.
No, 7.
And they were pretty much, 2 of them were thrown out, and Brightview was the only reasonable.
No, why don't we talk about that and get the facts straight on that, Kevin? Okay.
Well, I mean, maybe not for services, but for the re-landscaping project, when we took those out to bid a couple of different times, Chris Williamson was involved. we didn't really have a substantial spread of bids.
Okay, we can talk about that more because the various bids that we went out, we've gone with about 3 designs, and initially we had 7 contractors, and so that's history. So
Okay.
if you want to talk about the history, come by the office and I'll show you the history.
Just want to make sure we're getting, a good spread of competitive bids.
Yeah, I can share that with you if you want to see it, Kevin. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sandy, a couple other just routine updates. So for the month of December, we had a very unexciting number of work orders. There were 18 for landscaping. 7 were completed, 11 were still outstanding as of the end of December. Nothing too exciting, kind of routine stuff. And since our last HAC meeting, we had a good conversation with regarding the irrigation specialist whom we're paying for in a separate contract. I was pleased with the approach they're taking, and so I've asked for an update as of roughly 5-6 weeks ago to see how far along he is now. But it's a pretty thorough audit review, and in a lot of cases repair work being done. So hopefully that progress is continuing. That's it.
Yeah, we understand that it's progress that's limited by time available of the individual working on the project, but.
Well, I think it's more a budget kind of thing. They're trying to meter out their time so that because there's a limited budget we have and contract we have. And so they're trying to meter it out in a fixed amount per month so that we don't spend all our bucks before the fiscal year is over. Because part of that time is spent to do repair work that's hard to predict, and part is to do audit and maintenance work.
I guess that seems reasonable, don't you think?
Yeah, I think Kevin, Ben, and I've wondered whether they should accelerate some of the audit work so that we can get some of the big problems that still exist. We likely still have a number of valves that aren't working, and it would be nice to fix those sooner rather than later. But otherwise, yeah, it's
I
going
agree with that. I agree with that because some people haven't had water near their property for years. I don't know what it takes to get that done sooner.
It's just shifting their priority.
Well,
Is that Jake?
and taking the risk that we will run out of money budgeted for this item. And I don't know that we have money to be shifted toward it. So I guess we can simply ask that be looked at to see whether or not it's possible.
So Carolyn, for example, if we had 5 valves that aren't working and we have to do line traces, we could blow the rest of our budget for the year. And if we did that, then we have no money for repair work. If we have a main line break and that has to be repaired, we have got no money left to do that repair work. So it's that balance of leaving enough out there and guessing what kind of repair work we might need and trying to get this audit and some of the big fixes done. But the approach you're taking seems reasonable.
Okay.
So
I would also say that with the budgeting process, we're very aware of that and trying to balance how much additional time seems reasonable. So that the BAG committee, both Kevin and Sandy, will be in that discussion as well.
So what I think I heard you say, Jake, is that the budget committee is trying to figure out a way to get water and the irrigation that's over there by the Wheeler property and the other properties to get irrigation working over there again?
That we are already looking at how to, we're addressing the watering situation over on Smugglers in the 200 block of Smugglers. That's a separate issue from making sure there's a balanced amount of money in the landscape budget to make sure that the wet checks are done in a timely manner so that the repairs are effective and that we have enough money to make the repairs that we find. And that's based on the actuals that we are finding for the first 6 months of this year.
Okay. Thank you.
Are we finished with landscaping?
I am. Carolyn?
I don't have anything else.
Great. So Kevin, do you want to speak to the budget preparation that's begun?
I suppose. We recently had a meeting where we reviewed the proposed budget numbers for next year. Obviously analyzing the difference between current year and proposed next year's costs. As members of the HAC committee representing the community, we're doing our best to keep increases as minimal as possible, while obviously remaining fiscally responsible. So, we took our first pass at it earlier this week, did a full line item review, which was very detailed, and thank you to Jake for that. And we have a number of questions, both ourselves and Kennedy Wilson, on some of the proposed increases. So we're going to be continuing to meet with all three entities. Lori Nichols joined us as well. So that was it was good to have everybody in a room talking about, the costs together. So I think we can continue to have a few more productive meetings. Hopefully we'll come out with a reasonable budget. It does seem like we're going to have probably at least a kind of a standard, inflationary costs increase, which we all know are pretty high right now. I know right now it's running north of 5%, standard inflation. So we'll see what we end up with. Sandy, you have anything else to add to that?
No, I think it's obviously we're working from the programs that we currently have in place and continuing them to operate. And I think in general, the process, we're required to have, working through the process, there's a requirement that a first draft of the budget is in the hands of the site authority by the 31st of January. And at that point, our ability to have an impact on it is still there, but it's somewhat minimized. We may not have, based on the need to rebid the landscaping contracts. I don't know whether all those bids will be back in by the time that goes out to folks, and they have to have a reasonable time to respond. So I assume we'll be potentially into February before we really see what inflation is doing to us in those numbers. And they are obviously our largest line items are those that add up to the landscaping costs for the communities.
Can I ask, in terms of the reserves, we're doing a level 1 reserve study, is that right?
Level 3.
We're doing
We're
a level
reviewing it.
3.
Yeah.
Level 3, okay. Last I heard, the policy was to have a 65 to 70% funded level. Is that kind of still a general guideline?
That's the general guideline that we're working on with Complex Solutions, yes.
Okay.
I have a question on the budget. I just want to know this. For last year, is there anything in the budget that we didn't spend all the money for? Like, did we have 5,000 for this, but we only spent $1,000? And if so, what is that?
I think we can, there are things that it went back and forth. One of the things, like there was a COVID contingency for 6 months that we didn't use the whole money. And that is something that is not in the budget going forward. And so there are things like that. I think we can kind of pull that together and kind of do a comparison for you, Carolyn. you know, that might be helpful to see how we shifted things and what the actuals are.
I think something like that would be important for all the homeowners. I don't know if you provide that in the past, but instead of just a couple people like Kevin and Sandy looking at it, I think it's something that all of us should be able to see since it's our money. Do you publish that, Jake?
The comparison?
Well, the actual, the
something on
budget
that.
and the actual.
Yeah, well, you can look at the actuals in the reconciled budget for last year. And
The
so
year-end,
then,
right? The year end, Jake, you published.
yeah, the year end, and that includes the reserves. And then, you know, we have our monthly reports, and you can see the monthly reports, track it yourself. So all the information is available. It kind of all comes together at the end of the year, you know, that you can do that. Yeah. And
It's
as
on the
we're doing-
website.
Yeah, yes, it is.
The reconciliation is on the website for 2021. Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
Under budgets, under current residents, and then owner resources, and then you go down to budgets, and the reconciliation is there.
Right.
Carolyn, if you want to see how we're doing year to date, at any time you can get that from Jake. There's a pretty simple line item actual budget comparison year to date. Gives you a sense how we're doing.
Yeah, for each month. You're on mute. You're on mute.
In general, that's not provided to the owners until after it's reconciled, correct?
Correct.
No,
Well,
it's but it's
well, it's-
available on the website
No,
all the time.
it's
No, that's
available-
not-
the monthly reports. I send a redacted monthly report to the members of the HAC's finance committee, as well as to the members of the BAG committee. So the information is there. If you want to see it, you certainly can come to the office and I can share it with you.
Okay, thank you.
It's always available, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Tom actually made a good suggestion in this space day before yesterday or so, and I think, so I turned around and asked him a question about what if we were to produce a quarterly report, what should it contain and how much additional staff time would it take to produce it? Because we do have to balance the cost of producing an additional public-facing report and the value and the number of people who are going to look at it and the value that's there. But I still have an interest in seeing a quarterly report at least exist that is public.
Well, and I think generally Jake has, each time the HSC meets, tends to give us a sense for where we are year to date in terms of bottom line budget. Are we over or under, and by how much and why?
Absolutely. We'll hear
Jake can do
that.
that verbally.
We'll hear that in just a few minutes.
I thought the finance committee was going to do that.
Oh.
I haven't done that homework, but you're right. We were doing that, weren't we?
Yeah, it only takes a minute to do. I mean, there's just one schedule really you need to work from. It's pretty simple. So.
Well,
Can you print
Does
it?
anyone know offhand? I don't have that page in front of me.
Look under the report. Look under the report for December, and there's one that has the year to date, period to date, year to date.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking for it.
well, right.
Yeah, it'd probably take me longer to find it than to talk about it.
The last time I looked, we were basically on track, but I have not looked for the last 4 weeks. So,
Well, why don't you continue on, and if one of us finds that we can take literally 30 seconds or a minute and just summarize where we're at here
Super.
today.
Super. Malia is not with us, but let me, if we're finished with finance conversation, let me take a minute to ask a question for Malia. There will be a meeting of the CAG next week. Are there any CAG issues that anyone wants to raise to be taken to that meeting?
I have one,
Yes, sir.
and I think we've exchanged emails about it, but I remain frustrated that we have a series of, I'm just thinking of the financial issues, but we have a series of financial issues that go back a couple of years that we don't seem to be getting any traction on. And we keep bringing them up here and there, and even in the site authority board meetings. And I'm frustrated enough that I'm at the point where I would like to ask that we request mediation with the site authority and have them sit in a room with a mediator and with us, and we go through these issues and reach agreement on what they're going to do or not do and get answers, because it's just going on and on and on. So
Well, I think we're down to only one, maybe two, but the one that I know is still out there and open is the $230,000 that we believe we're owed on the Camarosa infrastructure build for repotable water, where we were charged, where the neighborhood was charged for 50% of the cost of bringing non-potable water to the neighborhood. And, by any measure of the myriad of ways we've gone about estimating how that cost ought to have been shared, whether you do it on developed or plan to be developed acreage, or whether you do it on tax values in the Melrose space. Every way that I've played with the numbers, it ends up coming very close to, Tom, your original estimate of 50-50, that those costs should have been divided 50-50, and our costs should have been divided 50-50 with the 32 acres.
right, so we've got that potential issue, or that issue to discuss. There's also, we still, as far as I know, you guys on the bag would know, we still haven't resolved whether we're going to be paid interest on our reserve funds. And if you look at how much interest we've lost over the time period when they said they would do something, we've lost $120,000 there in opportunity cost. And can we do a clawback and get that back from the site authority for lack of action? So it's these kind of frank discussions. We just need to get them to step up and commit to something.
Who's getting the interest on that money?
I have no idea.
No one. We have an account that's now here and identifiable as a separate entity, but we have not succeeded in breaking through and actually getting that money put in even the conservative investments that the state allows, which is what it has to be. But even those conservative investments would have brought us.
So Sandy, we don't need to talk about these much. I think there's actually more, and I can't think of what they are, but if the site authorities, if they're not going to step up.
Tom, I went through your whole list of things before at the transition point.
Yeah.
And tried to resolve all of them. And I think these are the two that are still
okay. Tell you what, they're
still out there.
They're the most material. They haven't been addressed. And so it's like, how long do we have to go through this process of asking and hearing nothing? So I'm frustrated.
Also, there's the potholes on Camarillo Street that never get fixed.
It's on a portion of Camarillo Street that's owned by the county and not us and not the university.
That's not what the county says.
Should have
The
mentioned
county
it to
says
Carmen
it's the
Ramirez.
university.
We
I'm
should have mentioned
sorry.
it.
The county says it's the universities? Jake
Well,
is-
who's been filling the potholes with the
Oh,
asphalt?
the university does it just because they're trying to keep the bus that supports their students alive and not kill the Ventura bus.
Well, so how about we do this? Let's shelve this mediation topic. But Carolyn's asked if we can raise the issue about having potholes repaired along the whole Camarillo Street district and take it to the CAM. And I think that's a valid topic.
Okay,
So I'd make a motion, we take the pothole repair to the CAG and get somebody to tell us how it's done.
Well, yeah, even if the university is saying it's not for them, it's certainly their duty to approach the county. We're just individuals. I've approached the county and they told me they don't even know the road exists. So,
okay, so I think, Carolyn,
So-
that's the feedback we need to take back into the CAG, is that
Yeah.
we now have individual members of the community who've tried to go to the county, and the county has just brushed them off. So clearly, we don't have standing in this conversation, and we need someone who does to have the conversation with the county.
Well, so I
they
think,
didn't brush me off. They said the road didn't exist on their maps.
so I make a motion, we take the pothole repair issue to the CAG.
And also Sandy, part of that,
Am I hearing a consensus that we all agree with that?
I agree.
That's fine.
Okay,
Let's do it.
so be it passed. All right,
and the construction trucks are making it worse too. So
They should have
they
paid-
have to be responsible for that.
They should be.
the
It should
Well, I
have been part of the
the
mitigation agreement.
construction people have acknowledged that they're responsible for repairing the damage they make to the road. I have that,
And-
that has,
But they won't do that till the end.
right,
So
yes. Meanwhile, it's gonna get bumpy. I'm sure we're all right about that.
Well,
do we have a
careful,
CAG
complete-
report tonight?
What's that?
Do we have a CAG report tonight, or Malia's not?
There wasn't a
Lee is
meeting.
not with us, and there wasn't a CAG meeting.
Well, there was one on, what was it, the 9th? And then we didn't have a December meeting, so they couldn't have made one. So, yeah, the last one was on the 9th of December.
So,
What does this say? Rumors of building in the community park.
Where's that? Oh,
So the rumors of building in the community park are at a public meeting with the developers of the 32 acres and with others. Discussions about the park needs of the combined community happened. And the manager from Kennedy Wilson Multifamily, to some individuals, but not to the general public, indicated that there might be some resources available to help add facilities in the community park. But our issue is much broader than just that. The issue is that we're going to become, in the next 3 to 4 years, we're going to become a community that's twice our current size. And so I think the rumors of anything happening in the park are at this point just rumors. The only way something happens in the park is if we do the homework and provide a proposal and try to figure out if there is any other approach to building what might need to be built in the community park for it to be a reasonable community park. And we know how expensive it is because we've just done a playground. Those issues have to be broadly discussed, and there has to be a consensus on how we want to proceed. So it's a long-term problem. It's not on our agenda today. But I think it's something that there does need to be some effort put into to do the research about what our current status, how our current status as living on state land either advantages or disadvantages us, and what our choices are for moving forward, given what our funding options may or may not be. So it's a side hobby of mine to try to get some answers. And when I've got some answers, I'll come back and say, this is what I learned. But it's just something I'm working as a member of the community, not as the chair of the HAC at this point. But
Well, the rumors were on the agenda. That's why I said it. So I guess you wanted to talk about it.
yeah, but that's
Okay.
all I wanted. That's all I wanted to say. So thanks for bringing it up, because
The other issue that I don't see on the agenda is our taxes that we paid for the Mello-Roos and all of this beautiful infrastructure that's getting ripped out, and the fact that we have to, are we paying for the stuff that they're tearing out? Does anyone know? Kevin, have you got any information?
Yes, we believe we have some sense of who's on the hook for what is being removed. The site authority has put some additional money into repaying the Mello-Roos. There's a working group that's going to have a meeting in the next few days, and we're going to put the numbers together and see whether or not we've got what kind of case we have. But yes, at the moment, if you had to answer the question, who's paying for what's being ripped out, the answer is us.
Well, we're not paying for the ripping out. We paid for it being put in.
Right.
Absolutely. Correct.
Yeah.
We paid for it being put in.
So who knows? We've made some headway, but it's always 2 steps forward and 1 step back. So yeah, we're gonna try to meet this weekend and put a bunch of documents together. We have received through public records requests a whole piles and piles of different refinancing and year-end reports, although some information is redacted or not included. To which Lori, the other day at the BAG meeting, said that she would try to fill in that information. So we'll see if that's going to make any headway. But
and I actually filled some of it in, because I did go back through all the research I did in August, and I did find an entire run of the reports that were required under the RDA and subsequent. That's a section that remained after the RDA went away. That requires, it's a report of indebtedness that's required, and the only bond that's included in the report of indebtedness is 2001 Series A and its subsequent iterations.
yeah,
So I have some real information to share, but I'd like to share it with you guys before I say anything publicly.
Yeah, one of the things that we've run across in trying to gather all the indebtedness information is that the university has multiple bonds out there. And so there is we have to tease apart some of those. So that's something we're going to work on this weekend in their refinancing documents that we have obtained. So we're working on it, definitely. We'll see if we get somewhere.
Well,
I do have one more comment. Thank you for working on that, Kevin. And I sent you a private email that volunteering my assistant if necessary. Also, it does appear that maybe someone is protecting part of those concrete drain pipes, or maybe they're going to reuse it. I don't know. They're certainly saving them for something. I'd like to, I don't know, maybe get some good pictures of that stuff.
Yeah,
Yes, please
maybe they're going to use it.
Please do take pictures, because there's also my next door neighbor has taken pictures for me all of the asphalt that's sitting in a pile is potentially reusable material. And it has a value, and we bought that asphalt. And so there are some, as things are happening in the 32 acres, because there is some reuse going on.
You know, I think it's going to be interesting in the end when we finally are able to put together the finances of it, the story of how much was spent and the refinancing and how we're paying it back. We might end up at a question of legality regarding the Mello-Roos Act, because that is part of the CFD area. So that's part of the Community Facilities District, and there are parcels over there that are supposed to be taxed. And the way that I see it right now, basically the university is saying they're not going to tax those parcels, even though that was part of the original issuing documents. And
no, the university is saying that they have paid the tax that those parcels should have paid.
Well, just recently.
And that is probably not true.
Just recently.
I don't believe that for a minute.
Right. Just recently in a PowerPoint, they stated that they've defeased the debt of over there by putting, a little bit of money away. But I still think some of it might go to the legalities of the Mello-Roos Act and how it was originally set up, the promises that were made in order to pay back the bonds, and then what the university's actually doing to pay back the bonds, and whether or not, how and it might end up being legal. And then we have to push, I guess, a moral question on whether or not, it's in the end, it's morally right to stick us with the bill that, did all this other work. So unfortunately, it might end up there, but we'll see where we get. Hopefully.
Well, the work I've done this week, Kevin, I think I've at least got some data that we might be able to effectively use to make our case.
Okay.
So at least I can tell you where we were disadvantaged. I now know which refinancing in which we were disadvantaged.
What do you think it was 2007?
No, it was 2017.
Okay, right. So, but we can be clear right now.
2017, right when they sold it to KW, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
It's related to that. So
yes and no. Yes and no.
But I mean, we can be clear that the site authority right now believes that our obligation as owners has been extended from 2031, which was in the original bond agreement, to now 2037, another 6 years. They think we need to continue paying. So that they've made real clear to us.
Right.
And that comes out to about $7 million over the course of the 6 years. So it's distressing.
Yeah, along with the fact that.
But we're working on it.
Along with the fact that if the 32 acres was developed as originally proposed, they might not have had to levy the maximum tax on every single parcel on our side. So
it's complicated.
Yeah.
Well, and they definitely would, but I'll share with you again my estimates of if the 32 acres had come online when it was supposed to, what the financial impact of that would have been, and we'd actually probably have paid off the bond early.
Right.
Probably.
So the financial impact of the choices made, both historically and more recently, are significant. The question is, do we have anything other than a moral argument? And I hope so.
Good conversation.
Yep, it is. It's I'm glad to have found a practical use for at least part of the hundreds of hours of research I did in August. So I'm excited by that, at least. So
Playground update. Let's go. Playground.
Okay, so the playground, it looks like it will ship here at the early part of February, so we will look like we're right on target to be done by the end of March, probably before that, but I'm not going to make any promises beyond, except for March 30th.
Done, installed?
Done, installed, yeah.
Done, installed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. The next was regarding how our minutes are kept for the HAC. Now that we are videotaping everything, we talked with the site authority, and they've authorized us to use the video conference as the minutes, with adding timestamps on the agenda saying where you can find where each of these things is discussed. And this is based on the fact that the amount of time that we here in the office spend doing minutes, now that we're recording everything, and we're basically taking the minutes from the recording and doing double work, that we've been authorized to do that. So I'm pleased that will mean less time, or give my assistant more time to do more important things than meeting minutes, when everybody can have access and look at the video and hear what was discussed themselves. Next item is
You can't search a video. I mean, are you still going to take the?
What you can do, Carolyn, we talked about it. What you can do is we will put the timestamps from the video on the agenda. So you pull up the agenda and you say, oh, they talked about with Supervisor Carmen Ramirez, talked about, started here. And so you can go ahead to that, and then you can listen to the parts that you want to listen to.
I understand that, but like we just had a whole conversation on Melrose, which is not on the agenda. So will you add that?
Well, I guess we need to think about that.
Good question.
Because I mean, if
so maybe what we need to do is that in the common area on the community advisory group, that we would just add in red additional items discussed and say that it is the Melrose discussion.
Well, I really disagree with that video minutes. I've never seen minutes like that. And I think it's detrimental to our community for keeping a historical record of these meetings.
Okay. That's what the site authority has authorized us to do. So maybe that's something, if there's a question about it, what would be the forum that could be brought up?
But why didn't anyone ask us? Because we're the owners and we need to
pay for it. You want to pay for
well,
the
we
time.
are paying for it. We have been paying for it. So do we get a discount?
I think the time that we're spending is getting longer. It isn't getting less with everything that we're doing.
We've always had minutes. I really disagree with that. And if you still want to do the minutes, then we should get a discount. That's what I think. That's my opinion. And I disagree that the homeowners were not consulted.
Thank you.
Can I say something here? Is it appropriate? I'm a community member.
Sure.
I served on this body for a long time with David Carlson at the time. And one of the HAC members was a secretary. And then David Carlson, when I served with him, was the chair. And so we took minutes. We did not have anyone in the office take minutes. So the situation right now with this whole COVID thing is just so that, taking these minutes really does take a lot of time. And I don't know if the assistant at the office is still half-time, like when Mia was there, when she was half-time. But having taken these minutes before, I mean, it takes a huge amount of time, and I just don't know if in fact there is a full recording, if it's a good use of duplicating people's time. And I speak now as a person who lives on Zoom, for living. And so one option is that the HAC goes back to what we used to do when I was on HAC, which is that the minutes are taken by the members. So I just wanted to throw that out there, if indeed it is important for the HAC, current HAC.
I would just say that I know that some school districts have gone to the method that Jake is proposing, where there's the video, and then there are basically links within the agenda that's published that go to those sections of the video so people can watch them. And for me, it's pretty effective when I need to go to another school district's board meeting and find out what they discussed and how it went, or look at a presentation. Of course, school district boards are governed by the Brown Act, and so they can't really have off-topic conversations such as the one that Carolyn, we were just having. So you don't have the issue that you brought up, because you're stuck to talking about the item that's on the agenda. So maybe there's kind of a multi-layered approach that we can use to better create a history that's searchable here, that we can all kind of work on together.
Sounds reasonable.
Yes, I think that sounds reasonable.
Okay, the next item is just to update people that the gutter cleaning for the townhomes, the phase, what was originally phase 1 on Smuggler's Cove, is scheduled to be completed tomorrow. And that if anybody believes that their gutters have not been cleaned, to let us know. We went over everything as far as the phases were with Tri-County, and believe that they also did the patio areas at the back side of the townhouses, which is a concern. It's reported by Tri-County that they were able to contact everybody to get in on the back side of the patio if they needed to. So we have a few isolated townhomes they're going to visit tomorrow as well, besides the ones on Smuggler's Cove. So hopefully that will be done by the end of the day tomorrow. The next item is, as many of you know, as of January 1, Senate Bill 1383, which has to do with collection of bio-waste, was enacted. Today, I met with the representative from E.J. Harrison, developing an approach to that includes both the apartments, and right now we're looking at putting 2, and I'll talk to the landscape committee about this as well, for the 2 locations where we're thinking of doing a small kind of enclosure that we can have a 64-gallon brown, it's a dark brown bin, like a trash bin, that the community can use. We will also be distributing information on that all of the organic waste needs to be bagged to be put in this, and that we will also say that no, don't put dog poop stuff in it, and those kind of things. This is something that we're looking at implementing over the next year. And so I want everybody to be aware that we're moving forward with that to be in compliance. That's number 4. More information on that forthcoming, more specifics.
Can we at least consider a community composting site?
No, it needs to go in. It needs to go into the bin.
Okay.
Yeah. It needs to go into the bin, and that they remove it. They're the ones, as our vendor, that they're the ones who are to address it. And so that's where we are.
So are they required to take this and compost it? Is that what the law requires them to do?
Yeah.
Okay, and then what happens to the compost? It's a product that they can sell?
I'm not sure what happens there. What their concern is, their bigger concern is that they get docked if there is composted material in the regular trash or recycle bins.
Right.
They do inventories 6 times a year, I found out today, and that is where the composted material there's potential fining at that point. So it isn't a straightforward ability to say, oh, we've got a solution. This is something that our vendor needs to address in order to meet his contract with us.
Yes, I do smell Johnny.
Okay, so I guess I'm confused. So I'll get the citation on the law and go read it and try to figure it out, because
So,
it's
Jake, just so there's going to be a couple, 2 or 3, you said, basically compost bins on campus, and then we're going to get our organic materials to those bins.
That's the way it works, right? Because it ends up that with the apartments are going to have bins per their 3-yard dumpster enclosures. And because single families and townhomes have individual 64-gallon, they are looking at having specific locations where you can drop it off and put it. And so right now what we were looking at was one location near the park, and then another location on the north side of the property.
I just don't see how we're going to get compliance with that.
Let's talk more about that offline. This is my first meeting with these folks. Okay.
Okay.
And so we're moving this forward one step at a time. Okay.
Yay, we acknowledge that. Thank you for having the conversation.
The next thing, just an update regarding the dog park, the large dog park. We've cordoned off the front part of the large dog park for 3 weeks to fertilize it, and then hopefully we'll be able to take the fence away. And then we can talk more about what the long-term solution is with the dog park, particularly the large dog park, where the grass seems to be being trodden down by the number of dogs we have and the usage. So that is for further discussion, but wanted to let you know what's happening with that. The next item is regarding the annual tree trimming per our email e-blast. The second phase is scheduled to be next Wednesday through Saturday, Wednesday through Friday, the 26th through the 28th of January. And this time it will be more on this side of Long Creek Canyon Creek, the south side, Anacapa side. And if there are people who have specific trees that they're concerned about, we have quite a list that are going to be addressed by both tree trimming. At this time, we're not looking at taking any healthy trees out. And so, but we are looking at addressing the clearances from the roofs in this phase. We're anticipating there will be one final phase, and that will pick up whatever we didn't get this time. So that is the landscaping. We talked about the landscape refurbishing. We have been directed or authorized by the site authority to use two of the 4 3/4 inch rock ground cover coverings that can be used basically by anybody in the community. We're suggesting in their private areas, as well as potentially in the common area on their own dime. And so we'll be rolling out more of that information here in the next month as well.
Jake,
Yes.
Jake,
Mhm.
on that topic, I think we need to circle back with a few residents who had submitted PIAs or other things in
Correct.
which we had ground cover issues, and I believe we said, until we get it sorted out, stand by.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's
if it's
correct.
sorted out, we need to
Yeah.
circle back.
We have three, we have two of those that had PIAs, and we've had several owners asking, whether they can put rock in the common area at their entrances. And so those folks as well, we will contact and give them the information. And we'll also distribute it to the entire community. Okay.
Yeah.
That is what I had. So I know there's one chat here. Was there, I know Paula Rockenstein had her hand up in the past. Is she still here? That maybe we can, if she had a question.
Here, I don't
Oh.
have any question. I did have a question about the this 5-foot rule, but Carolyn sent me the authority for that. So
Okay.
I'll take a look at it. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Paula. Okay. Anything else? Go ahead. I'm done.
Okay, so I had one additional topic that I'd just like to ask everybody to think about as we enter the budgeting season. I think we don't have a good common understanding in the community at large of how our budget is financed, at least, what it covers, who pays for what. And I would just like to request input from everybody on the HAC as to how you think we could better communicate that information to the community at large. And I just want to put that issue out there and try to get input from each of you on how we might approach that as we get further into the new year.
Wouldn't we just put it out there in writing? There must be some rules and guidelines. Why wouldn't we just write it down?
Well, so the rules and guidelines have been shared, and I don't think I continue to get comments that indicate kind of the basic math behind the budget is not clearly understood. For example, items in the budget are distributed, the cost of items in the budget is distributed by their category. Are they common area items? Are they townhome specific items? Are they single family only specific items? And we build the budget based on all those columns. And we basically divide common area things by 600 or 672, depending upon whether the town center is in the mix or not for a particular item. We divide townhome items by 2. I don't even think we currently have an item out there in the budget that's a single family only item that would get divided by 72. Just that simple understanding that when we make a decision to do something and it's in the common area, that we as owners are only paying about 40% of the cost. And as we go forward and add the new neighborhood, we as individual owners will pay even less. And I would like to try to figure out a way to do a better job of communicating that to a broader range of people, and would appreciate everybody's input on how we go about that.
Somehow I don't think anyone believes we're going to pay less when the new houses and the new neighborhood is built, but that's a nice dream. But I don't think our camp fees are going to go down.
No, that is not what I was trying to imply. What I'm trying to imply is when the new neighborhood comes on board, if we have one common area across the entire 63-acre neighborhood at that point, the mix actually will be about 70-30 in terms of individual owners and corporate owner. And so, yeah, so our individual costs don't change, but we should understand that when we look at the landscaping contract, we're not paying 100% of that contract out of individual owners' collective budget.
Okay. Hey, I've got another quick question for Jake, kind of a new topic. Jake, is the map of the new 32 acres available? This is what they showed at the town hall. Is that available for us to see?
I can ask. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
I can't recall all the amenities they're going to be adding.
So at the public forum, there was a very pretty graphical drawing of the neighborhood, and I didn't see your tennis courts on that. If that's the question you're asking.
I don't remember what I saw. That's why I'd like to see it again.
Okay.
Tell you what, folks, we'll look into it and see whether that's something that is available to put online. And if it is, that then we'd put a link in the e-blast in February.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just ask one question.
I haven't been informed that anybody had a public comment for tonight. Is there a public comment?
Yeah, ask here. Paula has her hand up.
Okay, Paula, please go ahead.
Hi, Sandy. Thank you. I just have and maybe this was addressed at another meeting, but just a question. You're bringing up the budget and that we're in the time of the year to put one together, but has there been any further discussion about, having, some additional costs going on to the homeowners for repairs? For instance, like, there was some discussion about, garage door repair, and there was some other discussion about some other repairs that currently are part of our fees that we contribute. So just to bring the costs down of our CAM fee, has that been tabled, or is it still something that's being considered? Or and I know, I think if memory serves, there was, I think this was going to be presented to the site authority, and was that done?
So what you're referencing is the conversation about reserve funds and how much money needed to be in reserve for particular kinds of items. And the decision that was made is that the ground sublease that we all signed basically identifies all of the items that are in the reserve fund. And this is especially true for townhomes, because the list is much longer for townhomes than it is for single family. And those items can't really be taken out of can't be given back to homeowners, because the ground sublease basically says they have to be done in common. So what happened is that when this was now 2-3 years ago now, when we had that conversation about reserves, all the items remained in the reserves. We look frequently at the budgets for the cost of doing those items in reserve and try to be thoughtful and cautious, but not overly cautious in terms of how we estimate the cost of doing the work that's involved. But right now, those costs only impact you in terms of your contribution to the reserve study. what the university did was make a decision, what the site authority did was make a decision to say that it was safe to have reserve funds that were funded at the 60 to 65% level.
Right. I remember.
Which allowed us not to request huge increases in reserve fund contributions in order to take those funds to 100%. And we obtained, in that same year of conversation, we obtained for town homeowners contributions to the reserve funds that total over $900,000. And we have received 2 of those contributions to our reserve funds so far, and the 3rd is due this year.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Anything else we need to address before we adjourn to property improvements?
I'm good.
So we're going to thank everyone who joined us tonight for joining us. We're going to now move to executive session to deal with one property improvement application.
Thank you, folks. People off. So mute some people off. So we've adjourned, correct?
I can't tell. Can we take the agenda down from the middle of the page now so we can see everybody?
Okay.
We still have some folks
We still
online,
have
so-
a homeowner online,
Yep.
and I don't see Carolyn still with us.
Yeah, Carolyn's there. Sherry, she's written out. Who's the homeowner, please?
She just has her video off.
Okay.
I'm here, I'm here, I'm here.
That's good. That's
So
good.
now, okay, so now we have just the members of the HAC and Ivy and I.
Without.
Okay,
So
so
you
So,
can't be
so
making
your
sounds and-
property improvement request is for me, and so I will absent myself in a minute. And what I am now trying to do is remember what else it was I wanted to discuss in executive session.
didn't you write it down?
I did, but we
Because you
covered,
mentioned it to me earlier.
we covered the budget issue in public.
Yeah, that's what you wanted. That was the one.
And that's what I think I wanted to do, so I think we
Right.
covered it.
Okay,
Yeah, so I think I've done it. So guys, you have my property improvement request. But I can't participate in that conversation, so.
okay, so let me ask a question. Okay,
Mhm.
because this is recorded. Can we stop the recording at this point? Because this is, I generally don't think the executive sessions are to be recorded. Yeah. Agreed?
Yes, I agree that the executive session should not